Hey Scrappy Peeps, Suzanna here today to share with you my layout for Spiegel Mom Scraps. This week we are scrap lifting Kat Benjamin, and this is the layout that I chose to scrap lift. It was something that she did for paper issues and their swag bag Sunday. She used pieces from their swag bag kit, and I used the Cocoa Vanilla Studio You Rock collection to do my scrap lift of her layout. So one of the things that I noticed about Kat is that she uses a lot of white cardstock as her background, and that she mats a lot of her layouts. So I chose to mat just as she did, rather than using a whole 12 by 12 piece of paper to mat the outside. It looks like, from the things that I've looked at, that she actually cuts strips, thin strips, and then just mounts them around the page. So I cut 1/4 inch strips, 4 of them, and just used that to mount the 12 by 12 white cardstock. So I'm cutting out my 4th strip, and I'm just going to adhere those around the edges. She doesn't miter the corners. She just lets them overlap at the corners, or again, this is what I've seen in her work as I studied it in order to choose what I was going to lift. And so this is what I did to try and best scrap lift her style. This is a layout, as I said, that she did for paper issues. Something else that I've seen that Kat uses a lot of are stars. She'll use various size stars. So I had toyed with scrap lifting that as well. But ultimately, I really wanted to use this photo, a square photo, and this collection, and I thought that this layout was going to work best. So I used those edges, from Cocoa Vanilla Studio, and they were the foundation of the strips that I wanted to use down the right hand side of the page, just as Kat had done. I thought I was going to use these stars from the back of the paper, but I didn't like the top and the bottom of the stars sticking out, and they were a bit big for the size of the people in the picture here. So I put that aside, and I thought I'll use that for something else. So I did use these cut apart strips, and I cut them all down to they're 3.5 wide. A few of them are a little bit longer and shorter. I wasn't precise about it, though I did use my trimmer, but I did want some variation so that there were a few that were skewed to the right and a few that were skewed to the left. So some of the strips I cut down to I didn't want them all a uniform size, so I did cut them down. This picture is of my son and his lady friend at the pool. One of the things that our team does, actually a lot of teams does, is the kids that first arrive at the pool for warm-ups in the morning, they sit behind the blocks and hold lanes. So the two of them were sitting behind a block and holding a lane before warm-ups. I wanted strips that carried some either weight and or were bright at the top and the bottom there. So you'll see that I glued that gray strip up there, but I end up changing it because it doesn't carry enough weight to anchor around that very dark strip that goes around to frame the layout. And I wanted to mix both colored pieces with multicolors as well as single colors. So I did try and get a variety there. That stripe was a little too big, so I end up trimming that down some. And I just played with the weight of the stripes moving across the page, kind of as Kat had done there as well. Kat used, I believe she used some sequins as well as some stickers for her layout, and because this is a Spiegel Mom scrap lift, I use sequins in place of that, and you'll see that coming up in a little bit. I used one of the new collections. It's the Star Spangled collection. I really liked the way that the aqua or the tealy blue matched the colors that were in this collection, and the water that you can see off to the left-hand side of that picture there. I thought I would use some of the words from that cut apart, the 3x4s, but they weren't going to work for me, so I put those aside. Again, my goal was to just try and use some of the strips that were in the border cut apart, but I needed some things that had a little bit more weight, so you can see how I play around with the weight of these strips so that I have a even disbursement of heavies, lights, and mixed colors. So this star, black and white star, I put up the top because it is heavy and it grounds the layout a little bit better. And you can see how I skew some to the right, some to the left, so that you have the idea of a column, but it's not a rigid fixed column down the right hand side there. And I wanted this blue. I was just checking the width there because this is the last piece that's going to go in, and I wanted to make sure that it fit without too much of a white gap in there. So that ends up being the size of all of the pieces and the ones that I'm going to use. I do just end up shifting for a little bit more weight. I do keep the red down the bottom there, but I shift that dark blue because it's a little heavy there. There we go, just for some balance. What you don't see in this layout is, Kat didn't do this, but I did. I went upstairs and I used some yellow because there's not a lot of yellow in these papers that I chose to use, and I stitched through some of those strips just with a yellow variegated thread, just to add my own touch to this scrap lift. Kat is also known as Crafty Cat 9 if you're looking for her on Instagram. And she has some very inspirational, I really like her style. It's clean and simple like mine, not a lot of mixed media, though she does use some, but I like how she scatters embellishments around. So I'm just going through the chipboard and the stickers and the ephemera pack that come with the Cocoa Vanilla Studio collection, and using them to decorate the layout, somewhat similar to how Kat had done hers. She has a word sticker underneath the photo, and I use a word sticker as well, only I popped that and I actually put it on the photo to cover some of the unnecessary part of the photo, and the sticker says "Officially Amazing." And then I took these chipboard stars from the chipboard collection, and I used a couple of the chipboard pieces just again to add some different color and some interest to the page. I liked the way that the arrows, one pointing in and one pointing out, kind of drew your eye into the center of the column. And I like to use my Scotch tacky glue or quick dry, depending on how old school you are, to just adhere, put some extra adhesive on chipboard pieces. They tend to stick better and not fall down to the bottom of your page protectors when you do that. I chose a couple of these word stickers. I used, I think that one says "Oh yeah," and I like the way that it stands out on the brighter colors. So I put that on this gray piece here above the yellow chipboard. And now I've pulled out my Spiegel Mom Scrap sequins, and I just like a few scattered here and there. I did 3 clusters of 3 for that lovely trio, and I tried to use a nice mix of the stars, the actual flat sequins, as well as there's some little white pearlescent flowers that are in there as well. And I put a fluorescent, a star, and a disc up the top, and down here on the bottom I put a blue flower, a disc, and a white star, and then on the left hand side here I've got another white star and 2 of the discs. And Kat has stuff on the left hand side of that column as well as she has, stamped, I believe it's a stamp, and hers says "Love This." So I chose something with a similar font from Heidi Swap, which ends up in essence being the title of my layout that I will stamp with black VersaFine ink that says "Cherish Each Day." So that star paper that I had first pulled out in the beginning, I fussy cut one of the red stars out. That orange chipboard that I put there, I don't really have any orange in the rest of the layout, so it stood out to me. So you'll see that I take that away in a little bit as I fussy cut one of the red stars and I put that red there. I like the way that the red star balances the red at the bottom of the layout much better. And looking at the layout now as I'm voicing this over, I think I want another red embellishment that I'll probably end up putting up at the top right of that layout. But I do like it the way that it is, so I'm not sure. I didn't really pay any attention to it as I was creating the layout until now, because I think that you've got the weight of that black strip up the top there. So that is my scrap lift of Kat Benjamin. I hope I did some justice to her work. I am going to stamp that phrase, "Cherish Each Day," that I had mentioned earlier, and that will be the end of my layout. I have a couple of close-ups to follow, and don't forget that if you use the code Suzanna with a Z, 15, you will get 15% off on your purchase at Spiegel Mom Scraps. Thanks for joining us today, and I hope you're inspired to play along. Take care.